No one is going to know the challenges and the solutions for that community better than the people who live there day in and day out.
We're a family of 8. It's mom, dad, 6 children, ages 3, 5, 6, 2 12-year-olds, and a 14-year-old. I don't think it's enough goodness being shown in Kensington. There's a lot of resources available for families, low-income families, big families like myself, similar to the Sunday Suppers program. So that's just one of the many resources in this area.
Our favorite part is about going with friends. They all live around here, and my school is not too far from here. It's about 4 miles away. There's a lot of programs, like I have a hockey practice like right down there at Scaling, and there's a lot just to do around here.
This is the Kensington area. A lot of things could be improved. Right now in the area, one of the epidemics is the heroin epidemic. I have my child, he catches public transportation to and from school, and he gets on the L station right at Kensington Allegheny, which is heavily populated with these heroin addicts. And he's witnessed many times people shooting up drugs. So it's the whole heroin crisis in this area is one of the things that I think definitely needs to be, improved. I know we live in a judgmental society. People is quick to judge before they know the whole story. So I don't take it personal, but it's not something that I like. Just conversating with friends when I tell them where I live. You live in Kensington? You live in, like a person wouldn't, the way I carry myself, the way I act, they wouldn't think that I reside in an area such as this. But one thing that I explain to them before they pass judgment is you may live in an area, but you don't have to be a product of that environment. You don't have to be like how the area is. And I'm an example of that. I know, where to go to get, good services, take my kids to a safe area to play. And just my values for my family is, just doing the best you can. Doing the best you can, regardless of your community, regardless of your circumstances, just being the best you can at that moment. And that's enough, that's simply enough. Just being the best you can in all elements of life. Being an honest citizen, a compassionate individual, a respectable individual from Kensington. That's all we can do.
In the sum of what she said, you should always be a leader and not a follower.
One of the neighborhood elementary schools around here is called Sheridan Elementary School. It's an underperforming school. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 1 rating. My son went to that school from 1st grade to 4th grade, and he graduated. He was a straight A student, never missed a day of school, never came late. And when he graduated, he got accepted into the #1 school in the country. Not Philadelphia, the country, and that's Masterman Middle School. He goes to Masterman. So it's goodness in Kensington. And again, just living in Kensington don't mean that you have to be a product of what's going on. He's an awesome kid, goes to the #1 school in the country, but he came from a failing school in Kensington. I'm living proof that you could rise above where you are.
As someone who grew up in Kensington, it is definitely, I would say, a unique neighborhood. I feel like it gets a lot of negative attention. Where, like, for me, I'm just like, okay, well, like, it's home, and despite what the media says, and despite the issues that are currently happening, especially with the opioid crisis, I think that the people in this community really love and care for one another. Literally, like the block that I grew up on, my neighbors and I were like very close. If you know, like one neighbor like, oh, I cooked dinner tonight, so you don't have to like worry about cooking dinner. And living in certain situations or having certain situations happen in life, especially with family or with things like that, you can get jaded by certain situations or certain things, or you know, get upset or like blame people for what's happening to them. And once I became educated on certain things, and, you know, learned more about what is really happening, you know, not just living it, but like, wow, like this is what's really happening, big picture. I've just really learned to understand it more, and it just honestly allowed me to see more beauty in the community. I think that the tension comes from like, are you here to hear me, to support me, or are you here to like judge me and collect data? And I think that's where like the tension can happen. And so I think just, you know, building genuine relationships with these people, you just really learn that they care so much and they're so resilient. To believe in them, like really to believe in these families. Working with certain communities isn't easy, and it's always easy to like, you know, jump to statistics or, you know, kind of become jaded or, you know, blame them, to understand that they want this, you know. Despite, it could be frustrating, right? People might say they're gonna come and they're not gonna come, or things don't follow through. But to, you know, really take a step back and understand that this is something new for them.
My name is Leonette. I work here at Esperanza in the Department of Community Health and Wellness. So my department focuses a lot on the work that happens outside of the clinic in terms of community engagement, health education, health promotion, programming for the community, and different kind of subgroups of the community. And I've been here just over a year. So I first learned about Kensington in undergrad. I went to St. Joe's here in Philly, St. Joseph's University, and I have a really vivid memory. I was a freshman and they had a freshman urban plunge experience to kind of give students exposure to urban social justice issues, and each group was doing service in a different part of the city across Philly and Camden, and my group was doing a block cleanup in Kensington. I didn't know anything about where we were, had never really heard of Kensington before, and so there's just a group of students with some other more probably local folks from Kensington, and a police officer drove up and started asking us what we were doing there, and we told him we were doing this cleanup, and he said, "You should stay away from this place, the devil vacations here." And that was my very first introduction to Kensington. There's so many layers to Kensington. I think when you first are there, what you see is the transient community, people shooting up, people sleeping on sidewalks, a lot of trash, a lot of general unkemptness or uncleanliness, and that's kind of the first layer of things. But as you get to know Kensington and as you spend more time there and actually engage with people who live there and families and organizations, you see so much beauty, and that's something I really appreciate. Earlier in the fall, there was, as often happens, a really awful shooting in Kensington, and one of our employees, her brother-in-law was shot and killed, and it was just a really difficult time. And then I was in Kensington maybe a week or two later at the Simple Way, and they had closed off Potter Street and just had this amazing back to school block party. and there were so many kids who were out getting school supplies, and they had a little bounce house out on the block, and they had drumming circles, and they had just this amazing community gathering where people were outside, people were having fun. There was music, there was different games, and there was not a needle in sight. I think that was just a moment where I just sort of saw like such redemption and such beauty, and I was so glad to be part of that event and to be in Kensington on Saturday morning for this, right? Like it was just really wonderful. And recognizing that it takes courage to stay in that space and to keep moving forward and to just keep celebrating the victories and fighting the good fight, I think is a huge lesson.
Before we have purchased a vehicle, transportation is really close. The shopping areas, Aramingo Avenue is right there. You have the Target, the local supermarket, ShopRite, and as well as Walmart. You need home supplies, you can go to Home Depot, Lowe's, so that's really convenient areas.
I believe the obvious forefront would be the heroin addicts that we have. The problem is spilling over. Our children have to step over them to get to the train to get to school, and it's I know they're human beings, they need help, but I don't think the city is doing enough to help them. It's more so moving them from one corner to the next corner, and I think that's one of our biggest issues. We have one major green space, and they do when it's back to school, they do a whole huge back to school event where they just block the street off and everything like that. So that's always been good. And then of course Sunday suppers.
Yeah, I also think that programs like Sunday suppers will actually bring families closer together within the community to show them that there are other things that's out there that will, help you within better choices of life, better choices in things that you're doing. But being able to come closer to each other, as far as eating around the table, feeling more comfortable discussing things, especially when we have teenagers, they're not sitting there eating their food and then they're or doing this to grab their phone, checking their social media, whatever it is, playing on the Roblox or something like that. So it actually brought our teenagers a little more closer to show that we can have open discussion, because when you are having good food makes people happy. So that actually, family suppers actually help in that area as well.
The kids wanting to help because they saw it at Sunday suppers. The hands-on, when we did the empanadas, they were just well, I want to fold it. Can I pinch it? Can I do this? And we're just okay. Again, there are families out here. There are not just, you just see the face of the problem that faces our area. You just see the drug activity and things like that. But there are families out here with children who run up and down the street, who love to play. If someone could actually just come into the neighborhoods and actually just see the families, our block, for instance, there are a lot of children on our block.
Well, like she said, to come in, there are parks, there are a lot of churches, and there are libraries. And the schools around here, the teachers, they work really hard to try to, educate the children in the neighborhood. You know, it's a real tough job. And if they had more support, it would be, or more training to educate the parents on their children's behavior.
Like if someone could actually like just come into the neighborhoods and actually just see the families, like our block, for instance. And people just need to know that we are a community, not just that face that they see on the news all the time.
I currently work as a general dentist. This is my 10th year working for the organization. Practice general dentistry, public health dentistry. I live in this community for the last 7 years. It's a very vibrant and interesting community. It's easy to have conversations with anyone, even on the street. I see a lot of interdependence, even among people who are struggling the most. Everyone has to depend on one another a little bit more. I've found people to be very open, and I don't know if it's a Philadelphia thing or a Kensington thing. There isn't really space for problems to be hidden compared to in other communities where on the surface things might look more manicured, like lawns or buildings or just institutions. I know that from the media, it has a kind of not so great reputation from different extended family members. I got a lot of resistance or just questioning, like, why do you want to move to the city? It sounds dangerous, or, you know, there are people groups in this community that you don't want to associate with, but just having this social fabric of connections with neighbors, different community organizations, being able to share resources like this. It doesn't happen in other communities necessarily all the time. I came home and my car was smashed, but my neighbors took videos of the person who hit my car and ran off, and I was able to track this person down and have a conversation with them, inspired by kids who grow up here and how resilient people are. I see kids walking to school by themselves at young ages, and they don't really have fear. You know, they still go day by day and go to school. They're looking out for younger kids. Everyone has the same human problems, you know, anxiety, fear. But because it can't really be hidden as well here, everyone's pretty open about it. And I think that helps, just walking with people through their struggles.
Everything that we look at, even ourselves, we are a work of art, forever changing to be all that we can be in this world. So I'm saying it's okay to use art as a medicine. It's okay to use art to make a difference. It's okay to go on out there and not wait on government to do something in your own environment. I saw a lot of people looking down, and I saw the need to put those clocks up high on that building because it was my way of getting people to look up because I was looking up. Well, there is also clocks that are, we have mounted some clocks that was upside down. That was my way of saying to the people, you take an upside down situation, a crazy situation, and you make it right side up. You learn to make it work for you because it's your time. It's your time to be great. It's your time to believe in yourself. There was also some clocks up there that had no hands. There was also some broken clocks because I saw broken people. Okay, you're broken, so let's fix this. How do you fix it? You got to go inside. You got to fix it from the inside out. And that's why this message of those clocks mounted to that building was so needed. Bring it out into the world. I witnessed people waking up in the morning and coming out with a smile on their face, thanking me for coming there to do something with that building that has been idle, that was idle for a long period of time. I saw a connection. I saw this building being idle, and there was people there in that area that was also idle. And all they needed was a push. All they needed was someone to step up and say, let's do something. And let's do it when? Let's do it now.
Before I started working here, I worked in West Philly at a large drug and alcohol treatment center, and I worked with a lot of people from this neighborhood. All I knew is that I loved to watch the process of people in treatment go through just really beautiful shifts and different kinds of perspective changes. And so I saw that resiliency that I knew was part of the fabric of Kensington there. Just again, through people's willingness to change and willingness to grow and willingness to be open-minded and to have trust and faith when they had some safety. So I knew that it was a tough place where there wasn't maybe a lot of safety, or there were some really hard places and experiences, but I also saw that the people that came out of it were like really strong. The crux of the programming is arts for art's sake. It's people coming in. We think of it as a harm reduction model, that as people come in and are able to express themselves, it can kind of take the edge off of a hard day. It can give them an avenue to connect with someone else, give them a way to just lift their spirits. So it's painting, it's weaving, it's music, it's there seems to be mural making again. We also are sprinkling in social services stuff like legal clinics and job support, and I'm just always trying to expand and just see what helps. It's always going to be a rotating group of workshops like that. This is about the way that public art can affect public health. So looking at the way that, yes, individuals can come in and make a piece of art that expresses something that they needed to get off their chest. And then if that's incorporated in a mural that's put on the wall, everybody that walks by that on what may otherwise be a kind of a rough-looking block will have some elevation perhaps in their mood or in their sense of what my neighborhood is about, what this block is like. Am I safe here? What kinds of people are here? It has the ability to bring people together. The term that is used in the mural making world is creative placemaking. That was a new term to me. But the idea that we get to creatively state what is this place about and how that can both express our needs and our challenges and our resiliency and bring more light to that and elevate the way that we think about ourselves. Working with other people that are also trying to help is really wacky. It's really deep. People have strong feelings, and I'm one of those people, right? We all have like a sense of what should happen or what's needed. We have a personal ethic or value system that guides us in connecting with people, and the way all of those intersect and overlap can be really fiery and like intense at times. But that shows, the way that shifted my perspective is to show how much people really do care, and people are flooding into this neighborhood to try to help. And that doesn't always work, but that love is there, and that the people that are here trying to get help face challenges I didn't understand before I got here. The depth of the struggles, the depth of the resiliency, the family connections, the beauty that's here. Like, people are really real. People just really real. And I knew that was true of Philly, but then I got to Kensington and I was like, oh, it's even, like, people just really just give you the real. There's not a lot of pretense. There's not a lot of fake anything. It's just very intense and real and wonderful. There are lots of different ways for the community to engage with that, and I hope that that's what the storefront will do, is to bring in and remind that, someone that you pass on the sidewalk may have skills and talents and abilities that you really have no idea about. And this is a place that they get to flex those muscles.
I'm from Philadelphia. I'm from West Philadelphia, specifically. Born and raised. Outside of college, have spent my time in Philadelphia. So I'm a Philadelphia lifer. Prevention Point is going into its 27th year in November. We are known widely for being the home of the legal syringe exchange program, but we're actually a multifaceted nonprofit public health social service agency that's dedicated to helping folks who are affected by the opioid epidemic, which, like I mentioned before, is very much a hotbed in Kensington, but is all over the city. So we do the syringe exchange program, we do free medical, we do social services, we do meals, we have a drop-in center folks can come into 7 days a week. We house 80 people in 2 respites. We do legal services with the AIDS Law Project coming in. We give out toiletries, we give out clothing, we do safer sex kits. We do all of our services. We do a police assisted diversion program. I'm sure I'm missing a couple. We do a lot of services. We do a lot of services and they're free. We do a lot of services and they're free of judgment. I mean, I'm excited to go to work every day. It's never a dull moment. There are several instances where folks tell you that you've saved their life, you taught them how to reverse an overdose, you gave them a chance in a specific program when no one else did, you encouraged them, you were someone that they can go to when their family and friends didn't want to go to them. I would just challenge folks to, remember that, we deal with challenging people from all different backgrounds and all different walks of life and all different parts of this city and this state and this country and this world. They are people are people. It's more, I think, a red strike against us for abandoning folks. It doesn't mean that everyone obviously falls through the same hole in the floor, but we have to realize at a certain point Kensington was a working class neighborhood. It was a building, a creating neighborhood, just like Port Richmond and Fishtown and a lot of places in this country, a lot of Rust Belt, area places, and these opportunities dried up. The drugs came in, the education, especially in Philly, has gotten poor, and we expect everyone to pick themselves up by their bootstraps. And then, of course, you can remind folks that, the drugs, whether it's opiates or other drugs, aren't just affecting folks in a certain area. And they don't have any, discrimination. So, it could be your brother, your cousin, your mom, sister, father, best friend, you name it. And how would you want that person to be treated if, you were in their shoes? With dignity and respect. You want them to stay alive, have a chance to stay alive. You want them to have options. When you give people information, materials, and options to, make what they want to happen, they're going to take it. I think that these communities are hardworking, care about, their neighborhood, communities. I'm driven to, work with marginalized populations. Stigmatized populations, because I certainly can be viewed as, a threat. I certainly can be viewed as, someone who you don't want in your backyard. So I know what that feels like. And whether it's, on my professional side or it's my off time, I'm really geared towards helping those who don't have and, changing the narrative for folks who think wrong about folks who are just trying to do the best they can to survive and then move them up to the thrive stage. The camaraderie that creates, we're not New York, we're not DC, we're not, LA or Miami, we're Philly, we're historic. We have our own place in American history and, we have an underdog background, which I definitely think is a driving factor.
I love Kensington, I love the community, and it's my home. I completely rebuilt my life here. And it's like really the only place that feels like home. I never really felt like I fit in. It was kind of like there was always something not right, like this restlessness. A pretty bad drug and alcohol problem, so that's kind of how I came to Kensington. I was like in and out of like detoxes and rehabs, and I basically got myself to a point where I was unemployable and homeless, and I wound up in a recovery house right up at Cornwall and Kensington Avenue. And that's kind of where I started to rebuild my life. You're trying to escape like a reality that you don't want to deal with, whether it's emotional pain, whether it's physical pain, whatever it is, it's like the escape piece. And also a catharsis, like so it somehow makes you feel better, like immediately almost sometimes. And so for me, getting sober, like before I started finding like other solutions of like working with others and like taking action to like clean up my past and stuff, like art has been like the next best thing to drugs and alcohol, because it's like, you know, it takes me out of myself. People are kind of like, how would anyone get clean in Kensington? Like why, you know, you're kind of in like the epicenter. It's like the heroin capital. Like if heroin grew on trees, it would grow in Kensington. And but I don't know, there's something about seeing like that level of it that isn't appealing anymore. Back when I didn't have any money or a job, I would walk from up by past Allegheny all the way down to this area to meet with these women every Friday night, and they just kind of like loved me until I could love myself. I was really, really miserable in the beginning. Like you feel like, you know, just totally unlovable and like a real piece of trash. I could relate to these women. I knew that they had been where I had been, and I knew that they had found a solution that was working for them, because they weren't like I was. They weren't homeless anymore, and they weren't like unhappy. They were productive members of society. They had like families and relationships and like all this good stuff going on, and so I found a lot of hope in that. That's really the root of why I stay, is because like I can't imagine distancing myself too much from those women. I still, 6 years later, spend every Friday with them. I needed to accept my situation. I needed to accept that I was like the way that I was an alcoholic, addict, can't drink, can't do anything in any form, like before I could like move on to, and like because I'm able to say like my name's Kate, I'm an alcoholic, now today I can say I'm so many other things. Like I'm actually a good sister and a friend and a daughter and a neighbor and like a productive member of society, you know, like I have a job and whatever. My primary purpose, I think, like aside from like doing something, making an impact, like whatever, making money or like being successful, is really just like if all I ever do is like carry the message of hope to another struggling alcoholic or addict, like that's more than enough. Do a lot in Kensington to try to help the community. I was coaching soccer for the Kensington Soccer Club. My friends and I, we give out food and sandwiches and clothes and stuff to the people on the Ave, like during the cold weather months and the holidays. Kensington has so much heart and so much grit. There's something about like pain and suffering that really brings people together. I mean, there's so many different demographics. There's lots of people in Kensington that have never been touched by, like, have never directly had experienced addiction. Like they've just been living here and working here, and it was like the workshop of the world at one point. Like the architecture is beautiful. Like even like the big old factories, like some of them are so beautiful. Like they don't build like that anymore. People make fun of like how like Kenzos don't have like good teeth or something, and like I don't know if like I just think the reason a lot of people, like a lot of older people, like don't have any teeth anymore in Kensington is because everybody spent every cent they had to put their kids through like Catholic school or like good private schools, like because people took pride and continue to take pride in their family and their neighborhood, like regardless of what's going on. Like there's a lot of people still like very active in neighborhood and community meetings that are like working really hard to like get things back on square. Everybody on the block knows each other, and like on my block now, like, you know, we all have keys to each other's houses. Like if I get locked out, I can go to like any of 3 women that live around me and get my key and get right back in. And you know, I think that kind of thing tends to happen in rougher neighborhoods. Like it's almost like I've felt as a woman living alone for many years, like much safer. The almost like the rougher the neighborhood, the more people are looking out for each other. All the places that I lived in Kensington, we had like block newsletters and like neighborhood cleanup days, and like again, like there's just I think more of a sense of like we're in this together. Like if you care about this neighborhood, then like we have to like show it in our actions, not just like talk about it. Really see in Kensington that I think is great is that there's like piles and piles of people that like haven't stopped caring and haven't stopped fighting the individual fight, in spite of the fact that it's exhausting when the rest of the city doesn't seem to care. I know a lot of people that spent their whole lives here and their whole addictions and got clean, and like they still live here, you know. Like I know a lot of like stories that are like kind of, you wouldn't believe them. Like you couldn't write the stuff that has happened to some of these people, and it's like it is kind of incredible. And I think it would be really great to bring more awareness to how much hope and goodness there is in Kensington.